And we're rolling. How you doing today, Nick?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Yeah. It's been a crazy week for me.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
Yeah. We were talking a little bit about it. But
Yeah.
I think we're both looking at trying to get new houses. So.
It's kind of a crazy time to want to buy a house.
Yeah, I know. Interest rates are insane.
Yeah.
And the inventory is low. I mean, there's nothing, like you can live next to a dumpster for $400,000, you can only live there 2 weeks out of the month. And, it's crazy. There's all kinds of wild things, but yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. And it's not like you can build a new house because it's like so crazy the cost, just a piece of plywood still insane. I mean, who would have thought that would be like
if you're looking at if you want a new build, you're looking at like easily $500,000.
I know.
In like a decent area.
Right.
Which is wild.
Yeah. And for something that you could probably get for, $350,000. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy.
The house that I told you we actually put an offer in.
Yeah.
They were asking like a ridiculous amount of money,
mm-hmm.
and we went and looked at it, and the whole thing needs to be redone. But that doesn't scare me because you should have seen this house when we bought it. This house, it wasn't bad, but it was livable, but it was completely outdated.
Yeah, it's great. This is a really cool basement.
Thank you. Yeah, this whole basement had like a drop ceiling, and
oh wow,
yeah, it was
great
bad. It was bad.
Yeah, I'm not handy at all. You did all this yourself?
For the most part, yeah.
Wow, that's. Did you know how to do it ahead of time, or
no.
did you YouTube, or did you?
YouTube was a big factor. Yeah, you can learn so much on YouTube.
I know.
You can get a degree essentially.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, tell me about it. I've had some clients that thought that they learned a lot from YouTube.
Yeah. Well, your field of study is a little different. You kind of need to go to college for that.
Right. Yeah, it was that was a long road. It was had to flashback. Sorry.
Where did you go to college?
Yeah, so I went to Michigan State for undergrad. I did
cool.
4 years there. Graduated in 2002, and then I got into law school in the University of Miami in Florida. And I don't know why I decided to go there. I never went to Miami before that. I went on a trip with my parents after I got in, and I think I just had never been out of Michigan. So I grew up in like a really small town. And
where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Elsie, Michigan, or Bannister, Michigan.
Yeah.
Elsie, Michigan. Yeah, it's the dairy capital. So.
Is it really? I did not know that.
Yeah, I don't know why we needed one, but yeah. So I grew up there, and then then I went down to Miami for a year. Found out that I absolutely hated it. It was like living in Vegas.
Miami's crazy.
Yeah,
I was just there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I'm from West Palm Beach.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So I flew down to Miami to get my dad. My dad came up, and we went to South Beach, and it's just like,
I know,
holy cow, like these people are strung out on cocaine all day.
I know. And it's nice to like visit, but like if you live there, it's insane because then it's like everyone's on their weekend. You know, like it's just a constant. Yeah. And it was hard to study, like, I
can imagine.
Yeah, but it was just so oppressively hot. it was just so bad. But my wife, she's an opera singer too, so she's kind of a weird combination. So she was in the Florida Grand Opera there for a year, and was in the chorus and did some cool stuff with them. And then she got into a school that's part of Johns Hopkins University. It's Peabody Conservatory, and so then that's in Baltimore. So then we moved from back from Miami to Michigan, and then we got married, and then we moved out to Baltimore and lived there for 2 years for law school. I finished up there. So yeah,
very cool. Yeah. And then you moved back to Michigan.
Yep, we did. That wasn't really the plan. My dad got sick during law school, and my mom, obviously I'm an only child, so it was just rough. It was a really rough time for her. So we just decided to move back, and just kind of been here ever since, and lived in Lansing area since I graduated in 2005. So I've been here for a while. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. This is really weird and off topic, but I know you're a comedian, so you'll appreciate this.
Yep.
You look a lot like Tom Segura.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Have you been told that before?
I have. It used to be Louis C.K., but then I
actually thought that
too. Yeah, but I appreciate it. Used to be Louis, now it says Tom Segura. That's fine with me. Yeah, that's good. Thanks.
That's hilarious.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just like looking at you like, wow, you look a lot like Tom Segura.
Especially now with in front of the mic and all that stuff.
Right.
This podcast is great.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's funny. So when did you get into comedy?
So I got into comedy, kind of a bad time to get into comedy. I got into comedy. My son was born in 2012.
Okay.
And right after he was born, a few months after that, one of my friends just signed me up for an open mic over at That's Sir Pizza.
Oh, okay.
In Old Town, and they were having like a competition, and I'd never done stand-up before, and I was petrified, just so scared. I remember like right before the show, like, you know, how can I get out of this? You know, like I was like, I was rocking myself to sleep on the couch, like, oh my God, I can't like do this. And then I finally went up and did it, and it was just like, wow, this is so fun. And
what did you talk about?
I talked about being a dad. You know, I didn't have any material prepared really. I just kind of went up and talked. And then, you know, I moved on to the next round, and which was like a month later. So then I tried to write some jokes in between then, and yeah, it just has kind of been since then. So this will be 10 years in July of next month. So 10 years in July. Yeah. Yeah.
So what has that transition looked like from, I mean, obviously you just started with just an open mic type of thing, right?
Yeah. So it's just like it's grind, you know, you just kind of like, you start working on material, you'll start getting like open mics, you'll sign up for those, and where everybody can perform. And, you know, a lot of times it's not a lot of people, and you're just kind of like putting reps in, and, you know, you're getting better at your craft, getting more comfortable with people, learn how to tell jokes and stories and stuff like that. And then as you get better, people will see you, and then they'll say, well, maybe do you want to come do this show? You'll get paid maybe like $10-15 or something like that for like a set. And then you're just kind of working your way up. And yeah, it's just been kind of a grind since then. It's, I mean, like a grind, but it's fun. I mean, I love doing it. It's like one of those things where I wish I would have started doing it when I was much younger, because I was 32 when I started, so which is a little bit older. But
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Now, what is the balance like with? Obviously, you're a lawyer, so what is that balance like?
Yeah, so it started out like when I first moved back to Michigan, I had a lot of connections in DC area because that's where I went to law school. But then when we moved back here, I didn't really have many people that I knew, and so I basically had to like start over. So I was just I worked at a firm that I wasn't happy working at, you know, just trying to pay the bills and student loans. And so I was doing a lot of litigation in court and stuff like that, which is like a lot of early mornings and late nights and stuff. And as time's gone on, I went out on my own and had my own practice, and I've had my own practice since about 2007 or 2008.
Oh, wow.
So yeah.
What's the name of it?
It's Leydorf Law Firm.
Okay.
So yeah, plug. And so I kind of transitioned from litigation and criminal defense into the last 4 or 5 years doing estate planning. So that's kind of what I really enjoy doing, where litigation is like you're in court all the time, and estate planning is more like what we call transactional, where you're just kind of helping people with their, you know, plan their estates, what happens to them when they pass away or if they're incapacitated, stuff like that. And I just love it. It's just, I have so much more freedom with my schedule. I can, you know, do remote. I can meet with people remotely. I can draft documents remotely. It's freed up so much more of my time to be a more creative person, which I think I've always was that.
Right.
And because I mean, my parents were, my mom was a graphic designer and my dad was an art teacher. So when they're like, there's something came to them, it was like, I want to go to law school. Like, what's wrong with you? Did we not raise you right? Like, what's going on? And I think I just came around to, you know, doing more creative things and just really enjoy it. And, you know, my wife's a creative person, and yeah, it's just, it's been a huge journey. It's kind of weird to, you know, kind of sit down and talk about it like that, because it's been times where I was just like, man, I hate my job. And
I could imagine.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I really take on a lot of people's energies too when I'm in my job, which I think is probably part of the reason I'm good at what I do.
Well, it's the fact that you also own the business.
Yeah.
So you have some passion and everything behind it too.
Right. Yeah. When you're working for somebody else, it's like, you know, I'm making this person rich, you know?
Right.
So,
exactly.
so, and I really didn't, I mean, that wasn't my goal. I mean, when I started out, I wanted to work like in-house as an attorney for like a bigger corporation, things like that.
Yeah.
Boring stuff. And, it just didn't pan out, and kind of had to do what I needed to do to just survive and pay the bills and stuff. And then found this passion that I love, and kind of reverse engineered a way to make that possible more. And it's been great. I mean, it's not perfect, but I've made I'm so much more happy than I used to be. Like just at a resting happiness level is way higher than what it used to be, where, it's, criminal justice system is just like, it's all negative. There's nothing fun about going to court and being in front of a judge. It's just negativity constantly, and it was just a hard thing to have to deal with. And
this episode is brought to you by Red Bike Delivery. This delivery service operates only using battery-powered, eco-friendly transportation. Red Bike Delivery is there for all your delivery needs, whether it's dinner for the family, flowers for your partner, or new houseplants for your new collection. Red Bike Delivery will gladly deliver those and everything in between. So what are you waiting for? Check out Red Bike Delivery on Facebook or Instagram for more information. Red Bike Delivery, because there's only one Earth.
I'm glad I did it, and it made me a good litigator. But then I kind of learned that this isn't really what's for me, and I had to learn how to do things differently. And yeah, I just I love what I get to use a lot more technology in what I'm doing now, and I love tech and setting up automations and things, and how to do things once and it does it 5 different times. And so sorry, all over the place with that, but,
but you're good. You're good. No, it's kind of interesting to hear your perspective of it, because I mean, I don't talk to lawyers very often. So
well done.
How long ago did you start the business?
So 2008.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and then you started comedy like a few years after that.
Yeah.
2012.
Yep. 2012. Right? Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun. I've always, now I have an assistant, so I'd never had that. I was just doing everything on my own,
gosh.
which makes you appreciate when you do have somebody that can help you. I think we should all do everything that we expect the people that we asked to do things for us. You know what I mean? That makes sense. Okay, so just so you can have an idea of what it is I'm not going to ask anybody to do something I wouldn't do on my own, and that I haven't done on my own. And so it's really interesting to like kind of transition into like when I've been on my own for so long, and like in my own little hole of things. Like when I go back into my office when I'm not meeting with clients, it's just like me. But now I've got somebody else that's helping me, which is fantastic.
It makes you have a greater appreciation for their job and their purpose, because like, I mean, that's one thing with this podcast. Like when I started it, I honestly didn't know how to do anything. Like I didn't know how the microphones worked. I'm like, how do I hook these things up? What is it? What is that wire plug into?
Right.
And so it was something you just kind of have to figure out. And so by me just figuring it out myself and researching it online, like I have a greater appreciation. Whereas I know people that have podcasts and they have like other people who help them, set things up, who are tech people. And I'm like, like they don't know, like if they had to go by themselves, they wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah. I think and it's kind of the same thing with comedy too. Like we have to set things up too on our own. Like, and so there's times where I help run, used to help run a mic at Crunchies in East Lansing.
Okay.
And trying to figure out all this stuff, how this stuff worked. I had no idea how this worked. And I'm still not perfect at it, but just how can you, do it on your own first so you can get a better understanding and appreciation for things too,
That's one thing I've always wanted to do comedy.
Yeah.
I was actually just talking to
it's fun.
Pat, how do you say his last name?
Pat Sievert?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
He was here Saturday.
Oh,
Saturday?
great.
Yeah,
Saturday. Pat's a great guy. He started right around the same time I did, a couple months before I did. I've known him for 10 years. Yeah. It's cool.
That's cool. That is really cool. It's kind of cool to have like peers that started right around the same time, right?
Yeah, it's cool. And now I'm in like 10 years in, and I'm seeing people that are just starting right now, and I'm sounds kind of sappy or whatever, but like I want to be the person that I would have liked to have had when I started.
Right.
Like there's some really good people that I got to know, right? And then just kind of steer people in the right direction, and let them figure it out on their own. But then if they come to me for advice, like, I'd be glad to help them. And then when I get the opportunities to bring people to do stuff, which now I get that. I'm grateful to have that opportunity. I can kind of bring people with me that I think are, really putting in the work and really interested in it. And that's really cool. So
are you headlining shows then?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I just started. So I recorded an album in the end of April, and that's coming out, hopefully within the next couple months. And so that's my first one. So it took me 10 years to release it. So I'm really excited about it. I feel really good about it. I was always kind of paranoid, like putting it out there, is it going to be good enough? And all that kind of, you have that creative thing where it's never going to be good enough,
right, right.
And so as I was working up to that, I kind of just reached out to a bunch of different people and was like, listen, I'm trying to do an hour, which I had never really done an hour before. So I set a goal, about 8 months ago, 8 months before, April. So, and I just said, I need to be able to do an hour on April 30th. So then I'm going to work backwards, and I'm going to say, I want to have it X done by a week before the show and just kind of set it out from there. And then I just said, okay, I can't do this on my own. I need help from people, and just reached out and said, hey, can you give me a shot to do an hour here? Can you give me 45 minutes here at your show? And people, what's so cool about the scene, like you talked about your peers, is like these people want to be a part of it, and because they're doing the same thing. And there were just so many people that were that just like kind of allowed me to do that, and they had no idea. I mean, they know me, but they've never seen me do an hour before. So I was just so grateful that like so many people helped me along that road. And it meant a lot just being able to headline that show and do I did over an hour too. My wife, so it was great. It's like, sometimes I'll watch a comedian and it's like, wow, this is taking a long time, and like I didn't get that feeling. I felt, I did like every joke that I did that I had kind of planned on doing, and we video recorded it and then audio recorded it, and the audio is going to come out soon. The video is going to come out a little bit later.
Is it going to be on YouTube?
Yeah, I don't know what I think what I'm going to do with the video is, if no one's interested in it, there's some streaming services that do comedy that I'm going to pitch it to them and see if they're interested in it. If they're not, then I'll probably just self-release it on YouTube.
Okay. So are you thinking about trying to send it to like Netflix or anything like that?
I don't know. I mean, that would be the dream. I mean, if they say no, I mean, whatever. I mean, like, at least, I mean, you don't get anywhere by not doing anything, I guess. Maybe Hulu or Amazon, that kind of stuff would be. Right. And then there's some other places like Comedy Dynamics that have just devoted to stand up and things like that. I'll give it a shot. And then if not, then we'll see. I have had a couple record albums kind of that are a little interested in it, and kind of shopping that around to see what would be the best fit. And then same kind of thing, if nothing turns out, I'll just self-release it, and the goal is to just try and get it up on Sirius XM, and then just start writing a new hour.
How difficult is that when you are writing jokes? How long does it take? What is your process like?
So it's kind of like
especially, I'm sorry.
No problem.
But especially like working full time, like I could imagine that like your thoughts are kind of all over the place. Do you just like focus strictly on that when you're doing it?
Yeah. I try and like I've during the pandemic and even before that, I was reading a lot about like productivity and how can I be the most productive I can during the day, and still, be a human being.
Right.
And so just learning how to set aside time where I'm just focused on that, the creative process and doing things. And if nothing's coming out of it, at least I'm kind of like working up towards, I'm getting in that mindset of writing it. What I found really helps is there's this old book called The Artist's Way, where they just kind of talk about, it's not like specifically to writing. It's kind of just more of the creative process. And they talk about like writing pages in the morning, just writing and like kind of just getting that junk out of your head. And you kind of just doing that as much as you can. And that's one of those things that I found really helpful. It's an older book.
Pat was telling me about the book, the Zen of
stand-up comedy.
Yeah. Stand-up comedy.
That's a good one. So just trying to get stuff done and then compartmentalize things and say like, okay, I'm going to work on, 5 different things for law. And then I'm going to, have some time set aside where I can just, write and do creative things. The joke process is, it can take any amount of time. There's still some jokes where I didn't put on the album that I'm still trying to figure out. Like, I think this is funny, but I'm not really happy with where it's at.
Like a funny concept.
Yeah. But I'm not happy with where it's at. But then there's somewhere it'll just like, okay, wow, that one just really kind of fell into place. And yeah, it's super cool. It's like it's one of those things where you can't practice it on your own either.
I know. That's one thing that's like stopping me from wanting to do it, because I'm like, sorry.
No problem.
There's some things that I think are funny, and I'm like, man, I wish I could like get up on stage and say that, but then I don't know if it is.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what's stopping me.
Yeah. And one of the things that if you just do it, you'll be able to kind of edit a little bit better, more than when you're just starting out, kind of a thing. And it's just through experience and just being like, okay, I think I can cut this down or cut this part out, but I think this is funny, and maybe I can just kind of, think about it up on stage and talk about it, and then just recording your sets and listening to it. It's a lot of like listening to your own voice, which is kind of narcissistic and stuff,
It is.
But like for this too, I mean, I'm sure you gotta listen to your stuff, but
I don't.
Yeah.
I know. I literally
I understand. Yeah.
I put it out and I don't. There's been a couple episodes where I'll listen, like if the guest has been really cool, or like I'm like, man, I want to hear their story again. I'll go back and listen, but the whole time I'm like, I hate my voice, voice.
Yeah. It's just one of those things that, you're doing it for the betterment of what you're trying to put out. So it's just kind of hard to, but yeah, when I was getting ready to record, I just had to listen to it. And now I've had to listen to the album recording. Like the guy that's helping me edit it is sending me everything, and I'm having to listen to it again. It's like, he's like, I know your jokes probably better than you do. Like it's funny, but repetition like that, like you'll think of things that you maybe haven't thought before, because it's just so, you're not relying on like memory to remember what it is. You're just kind of like, it's just coming out of you,
Right.
And then you can kind of think of some different things, but yeah.
I guess like one of the things I would be concerned about too is like saying it over and over, like it would kind of lose its touch.
Yeah.
A little bit.
When I've struggled with that too, when about 4 or so years ago, but I've kind of, I listened to this guy. He's a stand-up comedian, and he helped me kind of punch up some jokes. And I think it was Roseanne Cash or something like that. She said like, "Where's the magic?" So it's like a quote that she would always say when she's trying to perform. And it's like, what am I going to do that's going to be interesting or different or things like that? And I kind of always think about, like, I wrote that on the wall of the Robin Theater when I was performing, just to kind of keep that in mind. Like, how am I going to make this different? Like, instead of just, these are all jokes that I've told, but how can I be like in the moment and focusing on like, how can I do this at the best that I can at this particular moment, even though I've said these jokes for some of them for 7-8 years. So yeah, it's so much fun. I mean, you should definitely do it.
I should do it.
Yeah. And there's so many. There's the community here in Lansing is so welcoming too. There's like Ellison has a open mic now. Crunchies, Beggar's Banquet. Yeah, lots of great places have some places that people that are really cool and will like talk to you about stuff. And yeah, I'd be glad to whatever I can do to help. I'd be glad to do that. It's just so much fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely should just go to an open mic.
Oh yeah, you just got to do it. It's one of those things where if you can prepare yourself to death, if you just you got to just jump out of the plane and do it. One of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, overthinking it's not gonna help you.
Yep. Yeah. And overthinking it like gets you into that editor's part of your brain already, where you kind of want to be and sit in the creative part of your brain and thinking about how can I just get all these ideas out. And like it's like in baseball, you're just trying to improve your average. Like when you're starting out, like my average was probably like a 1 out of every 10 jokes would be great, and the rest of them are just garbage. But like as you're getting more reps in, you're gonna improve your average, and hopefully you can hit putting 400 or something like that. Yeah. So that's kind of it's just a great. It's like one of those things they call the process of writing or the process of creating. It's just like how can you and it makes me want to be a better person. Like, so working on myself, working on, the things that about me that that are, different or weird, or maybe I want to think about more, like being in therapy and learning about just asking questions of myself that I've never asked before. And how can I work on those things? And it's just, it's a cool thing, even if it's not if I'm not going to have a Netflix special or whatever, like, how can I, it's just made me be a much better person and father and dad, and
well, it's kind of
husband.
an outlet too, right?
For sure.
Like for all the stress and everything you're going through. Like when you go on stage and you like make everybody laugh, that's got to be a great feeling.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. Yeah,
because that's something I strive to do every single day, is make my wife laugh.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I try hard.
Yes. Yeah. Same thing. Same here. I mean, my wife's my biggest critic and my biggest fan too. At the same time, she's like, yeah, this is good. You might want to try that, and it works like every time. She's got that kind of performance mentality where she knows how to do that. So,
she's a performer too.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Does she perform at all?
Not
still?
anymore.
No.
She teaches. She'll perform like every once in a while, like at holidays and things like that for churches and stuff. But she's more of a teacher now, and she loves that. And
cool.
She's great at it. She's had some students go on to like Western, which is a great theater program, and all kinds. It's cool to see how she's evolving because she was always an amazing performer, but how could she evolve into being a teacher, which is wild. So.
And that's a completely different skill.
Yeah.
Especially with today's little shits.
Exactly. I know. Yeah. She has stories. I have stories, it's wild. It's just about like, and being on Zoom and like kids like checking their phone and stuff. And it's like, come on, like we're in this thing. Like,
right.
You want to get better, like turn your phone off. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Yep.
Does she teach like high schoolers?
Yeah, she teaches high school. She used to be an adjunct at LCC, so in their music program. But a lot of high school people at like Okemos and Hazlitt. When I grew up, Hazlitt had like a really good sports program.
Yeah.
But now they have like, I think it's like 8 different choirs. They have like their music program is so huge. It's amazing, like what they've done and the work they've put into it. It's just, even rivals like Okemos, which has always been like, the real arts kind of a thing. But yeah, I had no idea. And so she teaches a lot of kids from Hazlitt. They say if you're going to be in our choir, you have to take private lessons, which is like, wow. So everyone's got to be in taking, so it's wild. Yeah.
It's good though to have that kind of standard for kids because then it kind of pushes them to want to be great. Yeah. Like if you're going to do this, don't waste our time. Right.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Do you have any, so for instance, like if you become a successful comedian, you can do it full time. Would you quit law?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've done my time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. I can help people. But I just like to create things. I would love to just be able to, like I'm writing a book about like, it's kind of like a real life story about going to law school and like what it's like being a lawyer. Cause I didn't have anybody pull me aside and say like, listen, don't do this.
It's kind of glamorized, right? By television and shows. Like you picture this person in this like really fancy office and they're able to just go into court and just like that, just win the case.
Right. You'd be surprised at just like how little judges know of the law. I'm just gonna
really.
Yeah. It's frightening at times, like we elect judges in Michigan, and I don't know how it really works in other states, but and it's like non-political in Michigan, but you're electing people based on basically a popularity contest.
Yeah, if you like them or not.
Right.
I have a judge coming on here soon.
Yeah. Well, maybe don't play this episode. But it's weird to me that that's the standard when we're for a politician, like, okay, it's a politician, it's a popularity contest, right?
Yeah.
Who's gonna knock on the most doors, this, that, and the other thing. But for judges, it's like, why should a judge be based on how many votes they get? That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. Because it's not like anyone's going to court to watch them,
right?
There are some judges that were, that weren't great lawyers, but are fantastic judges. But in my experience, there's just way more that just don't seem to care a lot, and that's kind of it's a so glamorized about it. Like you don't see that on TV.
Yeah.
You just see like the judge is really interested in like, oh, I'm going to do the right thing. Like, and you know, it's not really that way.
One thing that really bothers me, and I don't know if I should just talk about this or not.
Yeah, go ahead.
But
it's your podcast.
Yeah, right. I can talk about whatever I want. But one thing that really bothers me with the I guess the judicial system is that people aren't held accountable for like for wrongdoings. Like for instance, in my case, I have a ex-girlfriend who I had a kid with.
Okay.
Well, didn't know about it.
Yep.
Well, I knew the kid was born, but I didn't know that he was mine until like he was 3. He was almost 3.
Wow.
And supposedly Michigan has a law where it's like you have till he's 3 to try to establish paternity rights. So I did a DNA test, a home DNA test, came out 99% mine.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go to court.
Yeah.
So I took her to court to try to establish paternity rights. Well, there was already an established father.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And she knew this. Like she knew that it was a possibility that he was mine. And she told me that. We went back and forth through text messages and whatnot. Wow. And then this came out in court too. And it's like how the decisions that were made affects other people's lives, and she's not held accountable whatsoever.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. And not to interrupt you, but it seems like that the judicial system and the judiciary is like compartmentalized into these very specific things. Like, well, that's a crime, we're going to deal with it here. This is a civil thing, we're going to deal with it here. Instead of looking at it with a more holistic, like, someone is bringing us this question, we need to decide it, and what can we do to make this right? Instead of like, well, I don't have jurisdiction. You'll see, Joel, I don't have the authority to do that. Like, well, why not? Well, you know, because why should I have to go to some other court to get the remedy that, like what you're talking about? Like this person did something that's wrong, morally, probably legally wrong, definitely.
I mean, you would think it would be. Should be.
Right. And why couldn't they just say, that's terrible, and so we're going to right this wrong now?
Right.
Instead of like saying, all we can really do is say that you are the father or you're not the father. Like, you know, that's...
Well, the thing is like if you are a dad and you want to abandon your child, you can do that, but you might be held to accountability to where you have to pay child support. Right. And you may not have any rights to that child. Right. But in the opposite case, a woman can say, I don't want him to be a part. Like, I'm not going to try to, I'm trying to figure out how I want to word it, but you know, like she's in that situation. She's,
keeping him from the child.
Yeah. Yeah. Essentially.
Yep. And there's no accountability for that.
You would think there'd be some sort of legal ramifications for that.
Yeah.
That's my point.
There's not really, other than like you get like an extra weekend or something, you know, like there's no, it's very frustrating.
The thing is, like in my situation, like I understand why the judge didn't rule in my favor. I get that because you know there's a law in Michigan where you have till he's 3, and at that time when we actually went to court, he was already 3. Okay. He turned 3 in January, and we went in like March. So I think I got the test back in like February. Actually, I took the test on Valentine's Day.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then I got it back shortly thereafter. Then went to court and whatnot, and so I understand why there was already established father, somebody paying child support. I get all that. But it's like you would think that there would be an avenue like, okay, this person did me wrong. Like if somebody, does me, like say somebody like destroys my property, I can sue that person for destruction. Right. Like that person ruined a part of my life. Yeah. Like you would think I could sue that person for doing something to me.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I mean, what's your idea on that since you're a lawyer?
Yeah. What's really interesting, and I don't want to shit on judges so much, but more as like the system in general, where like, I think it started out with a really good idea, which was how we're going to help solve problems. But then what we do is we make these people into more than what they really are. They're human beings, right? So they're just because you're wearing a robe and things like that, you're just a human being, right? And you have to stand up when they come in the room, like all this kind of stuff. It's just like the flag and the cop with the gun, like all this kind of stuff that, it's trying to establish authority of this.
Right.
But then you lose that authority when you have situations like that, where
Right.
it's like, we're coming to you as human beings.
Yeah.
We have a situation where you've established that this is your child. And just because there's a rule that says, you know, at 36 months of age,
Right,
this is,
right.
you can no longer win. That doesn't make
Right.
any sense. Why is that the case? Like, that's your child. And so I don't know. I just have a real hard time where, you know, we have to respect the authority of this, but how are we supposed to do that when we're just trying to come to you as people to solve the problem that's
Right.
arisen amongst us? How can, you know, maybe community can get involved. One cool thing that I did, probably the best thing that I was ever a part of was for juveniles, they have like a teen court, which is kind of a really cool thing where if you're juvenile, you know, under a certain age, they'll, if you do something bad, like a nonviolent crime, they'll send you in front of a group of kids your age, and then
you get judged by your peers.
Yeah, right. And
Whoa.
you'd be surprised like how serious the kids take it that are on that, and it comes up with usually a really great solution. And the people that come out of that program are usually, you know, they're not recidivists. They don't, you know, commit more crimes, and because they're part of a community where like they're the same, you know,
they're equal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whereas like, do I think that I'm an equal of a guy that wears a black or a woman that wears a black robe that I have to stand
not.
up? Right. That's kind of weird to me. I don't know if I was but we just kind of accept those things as being true, but we kind of just take a step back. Maybe that's a comedian in me, is like looking at things and how do we look at things differently? But yeah, how can we make the community a more part of the outcomes, you know, that we have? And I don't know, it just seems like in your situation, I think if you put 40, 50 people in a room, they would probably come up with the decision that like you're his
Right.
father. Like we can't really be able to get away with that.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I mean, obviously, I think the judge should have ruled in my favor, but you know, that's just me from a bias point. I'm like, you know, I'm a good person. Like you see my house, I obviously can provide. That's not the issue. I'm a good dad, like all that. That's good. But I understand that there's a law, and the judge is kind of bound by that law also. And the thing is, he's like, I would like to rule in your favor.
Okay. Well, at least that's kind of nice, I guess.
But he was bound by that law. He's like, but I have to, you know, essentially abide by it.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I guess it's a law problem too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to.
I don't know. I don't let that bother me. Like it doesn't bother me, but like I guess I'm going back to the accountability thing.
Sure.
That's what really bothers me.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and I think that it's hard to. Yeah, it's hard to come up with because there's so many cases and there's so many situations and like and sometimes it's just like perpetuating itself. I think that, you know, and I just don't think people have been, you know, creative enough to think of different ways of solving this problem. Just going to do it the same way.
Because it's so entrenched. I mean, like you said, it's a popularity contest. Like, how are you going to get rid of that?
Yeah,
I mean, you have people that obviously are liked by the general public,
right? Oh, and like, I mean, we kind of just seeing it right now, like the idea of appointing someone for life to a position.
Yeah,
that is crazy.
Like Supreme Court.
Yeah, right. I mean, in the 1800s when we were living like 70 years at most, but now these people are super old. I mean, like, and
I almost think there should be age limits.
Yeah,
too.
For sure. I mean, there are for state court judges. I mean, you don't, you can't get appointed for life in state court. It's just like federal court. And you could say that that's one of the checks and balances. Like, you know, the executive branch gets to appoint people to the Supreme Court for life. And that's one of their, you know, their powers. The check on them is that the, you know, legislature, it kind of all works together. But man, that's a lot of power. Like, you know, to be able to affect, you know, almost 300 million people with one decision. That's huge. That's a huge. And to change something that's been in place for, you know, 40, 50 years, like with just one opinion. It's crazy.
Talking about Roe v. Wade.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a crazy day.
Yeah, I know. And I'm, you know, talking a lot about law, but like, I think at some point we need to rewrite the Constitution. I think that's just something we need to do. There's just so many things that's just held together by like duct tape and like string that you tie bread together with. Like it just doesn't make any sense anymore. Like
the only problem with that is like, do you trust these people to rewrite that?
That's true. And so then how could we have a more
we the people approach?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we have all this technology. We have the ability to have 100 people in a Zoom meeting or something. I'm not saying, I'm not, dumbing it down to that level. Just be on Zoom and it'll solve all the problems, But like, how can we figure out a way to have more of a direct participation in our government and not leave it up to, people that are career politicians and things like that. I mean, I don't think that even that wasn't how it used to be. Yeah. I mean, like, these people were like, they were like a lawyer and they went back to their community for all the year, and then they were in session for a couple months. And when they came to Washington, now it's just they're there all the time. Some people don't even go back to their home jurisdictions; they're just there. It
is kind of wild to think about how we don't use technology in that realm, and I almost kind of think it's on purpose. The fact, because I mean, if there was technology, obviously people could take that over,
advantage,
and take advantage. Yeah. I mean, you could see it in like the voting process. Like, why can't we vote online?
Right.
You can bank online.
Right. Yeah. I didn't even thought of that. Yeah. That's a brilliant answer to that. Yeah. We trust enough to be able to bank online. Right. Why can't we? Yeah.
Why isn't there some sort of protected system for voting?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you can hack that too. But
Sure. But that's a great point. Yeah. I never even thought of that. We do all this stuff online. Yeah.
So by being a lawyer, do you find a lot of material? Is it just like pretty much readily available?
Yeah.
I would assume you get like so many different kind of clients and interesting characters.
Yeah, interesting characters, definitely. Especially in like my, younger, and I don't talk about people by name.
Yeah.
I'll just kind of use maybe parts of their personality or situations that have come up. Like one time I had to go to Detroit for court, and so I'd never been in this court before, and I went to the clerk, and it's like, who do I have to go? Who's the prosecutor I have to meet with? And she's like, you want to go down to the left, and Mr. Skywalker's office is on the left. I'm like, what? Did you say Mr. Skywalker? She's like, yeah, his name's Luke Skywalker. And I'm like, what? So in Wayne County, there's a prosecutor who's changed his name to Luke Skywalker.
Oh,
and
my
he's
God.
an assistant prosecuting attorney in Wayne County.
Oh,
and I don't know, like, how he made it through the interview process or something, but like, your only hope, Luke. I didn't have my lightsaber on me that day. I don't know what we're gonna do. And so just stuff like that, just wild stuff like that. This is like, that was a great day. I was very excited about that day, but just wild things.
What was
like
his character like?
I mean, he was just like, not what you expect Luke Skywalker to be. He was just kind of an old man, like a grandpa kind of thing. But his name was Luke Skywalker. It was just wild. Like, and I didn't really get the chance to like, what's up with you, dude? Why did you do that? Because I don't want my client to go to prison. But so it was just kind of like it's just like different things like that.
That is
come
crazy.
up, and you meet so many people. Like famous people with famous people last names that get in trouble, like Kenny Rogers had that, just kind of all kinds of different things. People call me up for free consultation. That's the mine of like the well that never keeps on giving. People asking me, if you huff gas, will it show up on a drug test? Like stuff like that.
Are you serious? Will it?
No, but I told them that it would. I lied, and I regret. I don't know. I morally, I think that I should have.
Siri thought I was talking to her.
Yeah. So yeah, I just told them that it didn't, but I told them it did, but it actually doesn't. You can huff gas and it won't show up on a drug test. So yeah, don't huff gas though. It's a bad.
Yeah, that kills brain cells.
Yeah. And with the prices, it's a designer drug right now. It's very expensive. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Yep.
And I could imagine that field is probably just like never ending, no matter like what the market's like. I mean, people are always dying.
That's true. Yeah. With I know it's Yeah, it's kind of job security, kind of like with criminal defense. The only time then where there wasn't a lot of criminal defense happens during the pandemic. Like people weren't getting arrested because we were just in our homes. But
what was that like being a lawyer and seeing and working on that side of the law and seeing some of these people get away with like destroying the city and stuff?
Oh man, that was so many things have happened in the last just
so many.
I know, it's just. I don't think there's ever been, at least, I mean, I'm 40, I'll be 42 next week, and
happy early birthday.
Thanks. And I just haven't seen this much change happening in such a short period of time, so many things. Like everything's different the way we did it, and just all kinds of crazy stuff that, it was just so frustrating to like watch on both sides too. Like, I have political ideas, but I don't like to be biased and idea. Right. And it's just, we were trying to like survive for a period of time, but then some people were thinking like my rights are way more important than everyone else's. And it's like, well, you're not going to have any rights if you're dead. So like, can we just pump the brakes a little bit on that a little bit? No one's trying to, no one's trying, I don't know. No one's trying to control you. The government doesn't have, they can barely fix the roads, let alone like manipulate you into.
Well, they're fixing them all right now.
I know. Well, yeah, because we got the election going up, right? Yeah. That's so bad. It's so, I mean, living. Have you lived out of Michigan? Have you always lived in Michigan?
I'm actually from Florida.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So you get like how it's different other places. It's like even Ohio, who we like to shit on all the time. They have amazing roads.
They do. As soon as you hit the Ohio border, you're like, so great. I'm in Ohio.
It's so great there, and like I kind of like it there. Like Columbus is cool. Like
Columbus is really cool. Have you ever performed at the I can't talk at the Funny Bone?
No, not yet.
Have you been there?
Yeah.
I love that club.
Really cool. Yep. There's a lot of cool places in Ohio, in Cleveland. So when the album comes out, the idea is just trying to branch out and do more things out of Michigan. And I've kind of stayed in Michigan, and I've been starting out here, so no one out of the state has seen me when I'm bad. So like I feel like I'm at a place where I feel like I can kind of go to different places now.
That's cool.
Like I've performed in Chicago and stuff like that, and other like Indiana and Ohio and stuff. But I want to kind of branch out and hit the more of the bigger clubs and stuff.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
How often are you doing comedy?
So
do you do it every week?
Right now I kind of took a break after the album recording, so now I'll kind of do. Kind of picking and choosing like what shows I'm going to do. Like before I would just hit like whatever I could do.
Yeah.
And it was a lot. And, my wife was super annoyed, and she finally, I'll never forget this. She said, listen, you're spending so much time away from home, so you better be good at this because you cannot suck. You're leaving me with this kid, and he's staying up all night. And, it was, now he actually did, so at the album recording, I have one of my best friends, Robert Jenkins, who's a friend of Pat Sievert. He was the host, and then we had a special guest who was my 10-year-old son, did jokes, and it was like the proudest dad moment ever. It was so cool.
That is so cool.
And I didn't push him. I didn't push him into it. He came up to me and he's like, "Dad, can I tell jokes at your album recording?" I'm like, "Absolutely." Like, so let's just work on them. And he wrote some jokes, and we worked on it. It was just so like he loved it. He just
that is so cool.
Yeah,
raising a little comedian.
I know. It's like trying to mold him and do funny things. But yeah, it was so cool. It was just so proud. And he did so great. I was blown away. And
where did you record it at?
The Robin Theater.
You did say that.
Yep.
Yep.
Where's such a great place. That is in Rio Town.
Okay.
Which is such a cool area now. Did not used to be a cool area like 15 years ago.
No.
It's so great there.
Yeah, it's hip. It's like kind of cool.
Yeah, you can walk around with beer outside.
Really?
Yeah, like a social district. You can just kind of walk around with beer and everything. They can't arrest you. Yeah, it's wild.
That's
like
legit.
and they had that in Louisville, Kentucky, which I thought was really cool.
Okay.
And I was like, well, you can do that here now. It's pretty sweet.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, lots of cool places there. And Dylan, who owns it, I fantastic guy. Like just was so welcoming, being able to have me there. And we did 2 shows because I wanted to make sure I didn't screw it up. So we did 2 shows on the same night, and got a lot of footage, and I was just so happy. Just looking forward to seeing it when it comes out.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
I'm happy for it. I can't wait.
Yeah, thanks.
Let me know when it comes out.
I will. Yeah, for sure. I'm going to tell everybody. Everybody. Yeah.
You'll have to let me know. That way I can go back and put the links and everything
for sure.
to in the episode. Yeah.
Yeah, dope. Yeah, I will.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So that you don't know when it'll come out?
No, we're soon. Got the final cut for the audio. Video's taking a little bit longer because we had to get the audio so we could do that. But hopefully he's gonna give me the final thing here. So within the 6 weeks I'll be able to come out, and I'm gonna do a release party at the Fledge in Lansing with Jerry Norris is a great guy. Have you talked with him?
Yeah, I was on his podcast.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Jerry's so cool. I love Jerry so much. He really helped. He gave me a spot to kind of do a lot of comedy when I was and just a really nice guy. His wife's great too, and it'll be fun. Just kind of have a bunch of people. I'll let you know. Just come and hang out.
That'd be cool.
I'm trying to get it to number 1 that night. So if I could, because apparently it doesn't take that much to get an album, a comedy album, to number 1 during a day. It just has to be during the day. Like it's up to date sales. Just get it there, and it's crazy. Yeah.
Huh. So, interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, what are your thoughts on having a comedy club here in town?
Oh man, it's such a struggle. Like it's such. I've been trying the puzzle that is Lansing and East Lansing. I've been trying to solve for 10 years of comedy.
Yeah.
So Ann Arbor has a fantastic comedy scene. They have Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase, which is one of my favorite clubs.
That's Pat's too.
Yeah. Yep.
He loves that place.
Yeah. And the cool thing about Ann Arbor is people live and work in Ann Arbor, I think. I may be wrong about this. This is kind of my guess on how it is. With Lansing, at times we're more of like a commuter town because we have the government.
Yeah.
People live in like DeWitt. They live in all these other places, and they come to Lansing, but then they leave at the end of the day.
Right.
So it's really hard to keep like a club downtown Lansing where you kind of would want to have something like that. And I think the place to have the club would be East Lansing because
college kids.
Yeah, you've got college kids. You've got professors that live in and around East Lansing. You got auto owners isn't that far from there. You got Okemos and things like that. They're right around East Lansing. I think that's the key to do it. No one's ever tried that. It's just been tough. We had connections. They didn't pay their taxes. That went away.
That's what it was?
Yeah. Then we had trippers. They didn't pay their taxes and then went away.
Really?
Yeah. Just can't pay your taxes. I don't know where it is, but and then the other comedy club didn't work out recently.
Oh, the funny is funny.
Yeah. And this is just all a bummer,
It is.
And because we need that kind of space.
The thing is, with Funny is Funny, my wife and I went there, and the comedians were funny. However, there wasn't like much of a crowd. There was only like a handful of us, and so like the comedians are obviously riffing off the crowd.
Yeah,
and they did really well.
Yeah,
they did really good.
Yeah.
And then it's just weird because you're like in a theater, so it's a weird space. Like it has high ceilings, and
that's a real challenge for comedy. Is like you almost need like a basement like this.
Yeah,
you need like a dark
dingy.
Yeah,
place.
like the Comedy Cellar in New York, which is like the mecca. Like that's in a basement. It's like low ceilings. It's you're going downstairs. It's like there's nothing else to distract you. The ceilings aren't high. Like people are tight. You're right close together. Like the science of like people being in the same spot and it's infectious laughter is like, a real thing. Cause I've been doing it for so long. You kind of just see like what works and what doesn't work. And that's tough to make that work in an environment where it's just not conducive to comedy. Cause you're fighting against so many things, like people on their phone and like, people getting drunk and all stuff like that. It's just tough to like, there's so many things that have to go right for a show to work.
That was another thing about that. You couldn't buy alcohol.
I know there's no alcohol. Yeah.
And I was like, when my wife and I went, I'm like, man, like that really is what's missing for comedy. Because like whenever I go to a comedy club, like we'd go to the Bob all the time.
Oh yeah. That's coming back too.
I know. I heard.
Dope.
I'm so excited.
Yep.
you'd get alcohol, and that's what makes comedy.
Yeah.
Part of comedy anyways.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm so glad that room is coming back, because I finally made it to middle there. And then they're like, we're closing. And I'm like, damn it. Because that's what happened with Connections. I had finally worked up to where I was going to start getting like a paid weekend as like a host and stuff. And they're like, oh, we're closing.
Oh my God.
And then I was at Trippers, and they're like, oh yeah, we want you to middle. And then they closed, and then like I finally got into the Bob and Dr. Grins, and then they closed, but then they're coming back, and I'm very happy.
Are they coming back as Dr. Grins again?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. Which it was a great club.
Why did they shut down? Do you know?
I think they were gonna sell the Bob.
Oh, okay.
And then I think that fell through, and then now we'll open it back up, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I was upset about that, because that's a cool place.
Yeah, very cool place. Yeah, had lots of good shows there. Met a lot of got to work with some really great people like Nate Bargatze.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got to work with him. He's just an amazing dude.
He's funny.
So
I like
funny.
Him.
Yeah. He bought me ribs.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I was like, he's like, you want to go out and get some dinner? I'm like, yeah. When am I ever gonna get to hang out with Nate Bargatze again? And yeah, it was so fun.
That is
so
very
many people.
cool.
Yeah.
I met Greg Fitzsimmons there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. My wife.
Very funny guy.
We went and seen him. I think it was last summer before they closed.
Okay.
No.
Yep.
Was it last summer? They closed
I
last.
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we met Brad Williams.
Brad Williams. Yeah.
Yeah. He's funny too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very funny dude. Yeah, so I don't know how to make it work, the club in Lansing, but we definitely need one. I would love to be able to do that. It's kind of like you have to have a multi-use space almost, where you can have
like a restaurant.
bar, a restaurant,
and
then be able to turn it into comedy. And yeah, I mean, there's some cool spots in East Lansing that I think would be good. Just super expensive there, and it's just a puzzle that we haven't been able to figure out yet. Yeah.
How many local comedians do you think there are?
Yeah, there is probably between 15 and 20 people that are doing it on a regular basis, like at the open kind of mic level.
Yeah.
And then there are less people are getting paid work on weekends and stuff like that, but there's a good amount of people that are really working at it and are getting better, which is cool, because we don't have a club, we got to hustle way more than anybody else, like in Detroit or Grand Rapids or Ann Arbor. So the one good thing about Lansing is we're an hour from each one of those places, hour and a half. So yeah, we just got to get out there and keep doing it, and it makes you work harder and get creative. How many sets can I get in one night if I go to Detroit or Grand Rapids? And it's fun. It's a challenge, but hopefully at some point we can figure out how to keep a club here. That'd be great.
I hope so. I'd love to be involved in that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to talk about on the podcast before we wrap this up?
No, I just appreciate the time, man. This
How did you hear about the podcast? Because I didn't reach out to you.
No, it was on 517 Living.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm trying to get my wife to talk to you too. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she runs her own business too. So yep.
Okay. What's
she's she's actually an energy worker and like a Reiki master.
Okay.
And so she uses her, not talking about my wife now, so she's amazing. She uses her voice instruction and energy work to get people to deal with things that they've worked at with their childhood, different things like that, how to open up, be more I don't know, I never grew up, I never knew anything like this, but she's really into spirituality and how can we connect with she's a psychic medium too, which I was like, this is crazy.
Right.
But there's so many times where she's said things about people to them that she has no idea what it is. Not like, oh, you have a mother and a father. Not like super general things, very specific things.
Right.
And things that I'd never told her about, that she's like, yeah, your dad had a red convertible. And I was like, how did you know that? That's not even, because my dad is not the kind of guy that would have had that. And it's just so wild. She's just very intuitive and helps people kind of grow that part of them.
I'm scared.
Yeah,
I don't want her to sit across from me and read me. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I know. It's I never grew up like that. I was always in the opposite mind, where more like ego driven, like where I have to do this, that, and this and that. Where she's like, just let it happen. And you know, the more you kind of back off and pushing for things, they'll happen more. It's just,
I mean, there's got to be something to that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because like, I mean, for instance, like I grew up in a religious home, so like a lot of that was like no, that's like witchcraft,
right?
But there's got to be something to that. There's definitely something to energy, because like when you meet somebody, you can get a feel for who they are. Like, okay, this person's energetic. Like we have a good vibe going,
for sure.
Or if there isn't that, you're like, okay, this is weird.
Absolutely,
like you get a weird feeling.
Yeah, like I didn't know. So I would always feel that, like growing up, because I grew up in a religious family too, and I would my mom's a minister now, and she, like, I would have to go to church all the time. So like there are people where I would just get like a vibe, like you said, like, oh, weird. I would want to go and hide. And there's some people like I would like, wow, these people are great, and I want to hang out with them more. And like my wife said, you know, that's like being an empath. That's kind of what you can take on the feelings and emotions of other people, which is it's like, oh, that's, you know, but the more I read about it, it's like, you know, wow, there is something to that. And, you know, we all are like, we're like, in the universe is all made of energy and matter. And like, so it is interesting, like how that all works. And I'm the kind of person, like, I love to learn. So it's been cool to kind of have someone that's totally opposite to me and how I can learn from her and she can learn from me. And we kind of learn, she's like, oh, I'm learning about like how we keep trauma in our bodies, which is, it's kind of somatic, healing, which is like, because we're all, we all perceive things through our central nervous system. It gets stored in our body, and sometimes that can limit us as people. So how can we figure? There's different moves, and like yoga can help you get rid of that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's just fascinating to me. Where I don't believe all of everything I hear, but it's just like it's like that makes kind of sense, right?
Well,
so
I definitely believe that. Yeah, that because for instance, when we're like at an hour, but before I moved out, I had a very stressful childhood and everything, and I moved out when I was 17.
Oh, wow.
And because of my stressful environment and everything, I had bald spots on the back of my head.
Yeah.
Went to the doctor. She's like, it's because you're stressed out, and it's not going to grow back. It's alopecia or whatever. So I moved out, and then 3 months later, it grew back. Yeah. And it's like my body was like stressing. Like it was just trying to protect itself.
I know.
And I think so many people like have that problem.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, like even during my days now, like when I like today I finished up, so I don't have much going on tomorrow, but I finished up kind of my week this afternoon, and like once I finished that up, there was like this release of stress, and I just started like like your dog kind of like starts yawning, like that kind of thing, like where they just like release stress. I'm like, just start, I'm just like, oh, I'm so tired now, like I just released all this stress out of my body, which is, it's crazy how that works. Our bodies are just very fascinating. I'm just learning more about
and they're
that.
Extremely resilient too.
Yeah, it's wild.
It is wild.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, man, thanks for doing this.
Absolutely,
this was fun.
I know. Same here.
Please have your wife come on and do
absolutely.
this.
I'll talk. She's very modest and quiet, but I got to push her out there. So.
It'll be fine. It'll be fun.
I know. I'll tell her. Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Thank you.